Hey there, if you follow us here on our YouTube channel or on our website for our market updates, you know my name is Scott Talley. I am the owner broker here at 5Market Realty, where we like to do market updates on the Athens and Oconee area each month to keep our clients and people in the market and really people that follow us informed on what we're seeing each month in the market with regards to prices, market conditions, and things involving Athens real estate. If that interests you at all, be sure to click subscribe and you'll be updated when we have a new market video to share. But today we're doing the August update. We're doing it a little later than usual. I believe it's Tuesday, August 12th in the afternoon. Full disclosure, we've just been very busy. We have another company, Red and Black Rentals, that does a lot of property management. And we just got through move-ins with all the properties here in August. So we're doing this a little later, but we're going to combine some local information along with some national information, which is what we did last month. So the first thing we're going to talk about, it was a slow July, and it's now a tale of two markets across the country. And we're going to include some information on that from Keeping Current Matters. Let's get to the first slide. Get my head a little bit out of the way here. As you know, if you follow these updates, we track four main things: days on market, number of listings, the sales price of each property, and the total amount of homes sold. As I mentioned before, we saw a slow July. So here we are looking at year to date. This is the first 7 months of the year, Clark and Oconee County. And you can see the total new listings is actually only down about 1.5% there. So we got a little over 1,300, or excuse me, almost 1,400. But the days on market is up almost 25% compared to last year. So we're at over 50 days on market, 53 right now. Average sold price, and this is good news, track with me here, it's only up about 3%. Now, that's still a big number because the average sold price when you combine the two counties is 504, but it's starting to slow down that appreciation that was going so fast, hurting buyers' abilities to purchase. The total homes sold is down 13%, and that's actually less than 2023. If you remember in other market updates, I had talked about 2025 was looking like 2023. On 2023, we had 953 home sales, and this year, first 7 months, it's 914. Now, we had a change in our MLS in the month of July, so I had to figure out how to get all this data correct, but I did. And before I move on to the next slide, I do want to point out what we're seeing in this market shift with a 25% gain in the days on market. Now, let's look at the month of July, just the month of July. So you can see here the new listings was actually down compared to last year. 2024 was a good year for Athens in a lot of regards. It outperformed most of the market on a national level, but we're down almost 20% there, 18%. The days on market just for the month of July did not tick up very much. It only went up about 2%. And last July is when we started to see the market cool down from the spring market of 2024. The average sold price is actually down 5%. There's a little typo there that it says it's up, but it's down 5% from 507 to 482. And here's the big one that I want to point out here at the bottom, folks. Total homes sold, 120 homes for the month of July. In the traditional ebbs and flows of our market, July is usually the residential market, traditional residential homes. A lot of people are trying to get in before school. To see 120 home sales down 20% or 19.5 was not a good sign for lenders, real estate brokers, and mortgage lenders. Pointing it out there again, and there we're going to look at how many homes we have on the market, which we've been tracking. Again, we had a change in the MLS, so I had to go in there. We've have a new MLS called Hive MLS that is actually connected to the Savannah and coastal area of the state. But I got it figured out. We're at 478 homes as of August 12th today, representing a 35% increase from the beginning of the year here at 311. So we're definitely seeing this market change with more homes coming to market. And that, despite the prices, buyers need to understand they have some opportunity. There really is opportunity out there. We're seeing more price decreases, prices coming down on listings across the board. Now, this is something I want to point out that is kind of a little upsetting, but I've done here as a graph of the month of July home sales from 2017 to 2025. You can see here, I just told you it was 120. But look above my head, 17, it was 242, 216 in 2018, over 220, 2019, 247 in 2020, 240 in 2021. And then the interest rate hike started to happen. We went down to 162 and trended on down to 120, which is representing the slowest July of home sales for the Athens area that I can go back in the MLS. Now, that's just a fact that we're seeing, and there's a lot of factors causing that, but we're going to go into some national news as well. But with the sluggish home sales in July, I do want to point out that our monthly absorption rate is now getting to be about 4 months of inventory. And what that means is how many homes are on the market versus the amount of sales we're seeing. So how long will it take the market to absorb those homes? with the days on market going up, we're kind of getting closer to a much more balanced market with the amount of buyers, or the lack of buyers, I should say, and the amount of homes for sale. Now, this is the information that's more on a national level. We get it from Keeping Current Matters. We've done this in several slides, and we're going to talk about a tale of two markets and how we're seeing things different across the country. We're 5 minutes in, so bear with me, and I'll try to get through this information. Since the national pandemic, housing boom fizzled out in 2022. The national power dynamic has slowly been shifting from sellers to buyers. Of course, across this country, the shift has varied significantly, and that's Lance Lambert from Resi Club with that quote. So here's the buyer and seller dynamic showing how they shift. Let me move to the middle here. Estimated number of buyers and sellers in the active market. Look down here. You can see in the Northeast, the blue represents the buyers. There's more buyers than there are sellers. In the Midwest, it's almost even. Blue to green right there, 111,000 to 107. Here's where it's different. This is where we are in Athens, Georgia, the South. The sellers are now outnumbering the buyers in the current market. You can see this is significant with almost 300,000 sellers in the South to 177,000 buyers. The West is also in a similar predicament, but in our region, we're actually seeing it worse than most of the country. Here's a quote. The South and the West continue to see the greatest inventory gains and the sharpest market slowdowns, with longer time on market and more frequent price cuts. The Northeast and Midwest remain relatively tighter by comparison, but are also gradually moving towards more buyer-friendly conditions than we have seen in recent years, from Realtor.com. This is representing the inventory growth, where housing inventory is growing the fastest. You can see here in the Midwest, they're down year over year, and that's about 40% down. The Northeast, they're down from 50% from last year. Here we are in the South, and we are 25% more inventory than we were last year, and actually a little over 4% when you compare it to pre-pandemic levels. The West is also about the same there. Due to time, we're going to move on a little bit. But this is comparing inventory now to pre-pandemic. So I'll move my head right here. This is the shift between July 2019 and July 2025. We're in Georgia, so come down here. We're down about 6.7%, but some of these other states, I mean, if you can look at the inventory change, some of these are quite different. You got a 30% gain in Washington. You've got a 30% gain in Florida. And so what's happening here is not every market across the country is behaving the same. We're doing okay here in Georgia. The Florida market seems to be in a much different scenario. Same with up here in Washington. Go on to the next slide. Local markets where buyers and sellers have the most power. So below me right here is where the sellers have the most power. And if you look at this, you're looking at New York, Ohio. This is Michigan, Arkansas, New York. You see a trend there? That is not the South. Let's come over here. And one of the reasons I wanted to include this slide was a town in Georgia was mentioned. So you've got a Florida market, Shelby, North Carolina. You've got Atmore, Alabama. And then look here. Here in the state of Georgia, you've got Americus, Georgia. So Americus, Georgia, home of the famous 13th Colony vodka, or maybe not so famous vodka that's made in Americus. Gainesville, Florida, and another Florida community, Arcadia. So you can see things are different because this is where buyers are having the most power, and this is where sellers are having the most power. Mortgage rates have moved within a narrow range for the past few months. Rate stability, improving inventory, and slower house price growth are an encouraging combination. And really, folks, what that means is what we're going through to see less sale transactions. If you're a real estate broker, a real estate agent, mortgage lender, closing attorney, it might be a little painful right now because the transaction volume is just down. But in the long run, this may be what we need. Something needed to cool things down. We've been in this a while, and supply and demand have a tendency to figure things out for us. Mortgage rates experiencing less volatility. Now, this is just tracking the rates right now, but I want you to notice that these lines are just much more stable. Look here at this, how flat it is from the last almost year, going from November 2024. We're in a rate stable climate, and that's a good thing. I have some local lenders and some people that are pointing to things that kind of indicate we are going to see some rate changes later in the year. I don't like to try to predict the future and things like that. We're just going to tell you what's going on. If that happens, we'll track you. We'll track it for you and let you know. But right now, we're in a pretty stable condition. Let me move my head up here to cover my own. This is our group here at 5M Realty. I like to end the video showing you who we are, showing you the people that can help you. Anybody in this picture is qualified to help you, whether you're buying, selling, trying to make an investment, or just planning something. Even if you have right now a renovation in your home, somebody here can kind of give you some guidance on where you might want to spend your money. The things to understand, we're selling homes. There's just not as many of them as there were. The market for sellers is cooling. You need to know the market you're in. Condos are not the same thing as the residential home market. We're seeing those still get absorbed pretty quickly, where we're seeing a longer sit in Athens for higher price homes. Some markets in Oconee County, the homes are still moving very fast because of the demand. So know the market you're in, work with a professional, and feel free to reach out to anybody here, info@5M Realty. Thank you for sticking with me for, 10 minutes. Long one, but have a great back to school, and we'll be hopefully talking some Georgia football soon around the South. Thanks.